Today I'm going to be giving you all the information you need to know about protein synthesis for AQA GCSE Biology and Combined Sciences. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Grace, I'm 19 and I've recently finished my first year of university studying biological sciences at the University of Leeds. So I obviously finished my A-levels just a year ago now, and I know how tough GCSE and A-level exams can be, specifically biology ones and combined sciences. So I'm here to give you a series of videos covering all the key topics of GCSE and A-level exams for biology. So today's video is going to be on protein synthesis, and it is specifically for AQA GCSE. Biology and combined sciences. However, there is a lot of overlap between the GCSE specifications, so if you're on another exam board, don't worry, because this video will still be beneficial towards you. Also, I'm going to be uploading OCR and Edexcel GCSE videos very soon, and A-level content as well, so make sure to subscribe to my channel and click the little bell so you get notified so you don't miss any videos. So make sure to comment down below what you enjoy in this video, what you find particularly helpful, and any video requests for topics, or if you want me to do general revision technique videos, for example, then please feel free to let me know. Also, head over to my website, subscribe, and you can access all the revision resources and notes that I have uploaded there. Let's get into the video.
Okay, so as I said in the intro, today's video is going to be on protein synthesis. So this is going to be for all AQA GCSE specifications, including Biology Foundation and Higher, and Combined Science Synergy and Trilogy. Okay, so let's get started. So there are a couple of points that are included on all of the AQA GCSE specifications. So the first one is nitrate ions absorbed from the soil and glucose produced during photosynthesis are required to form amino acids for protein synthesis. And then the second point is each gene contains the code for a particular sequence of amino acids to make a specific protein. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about these 2 points in slightly more detail in the next few slides. So for our first point, we're going to be discussing what the plant uses and what the plant needs to form amino acids for protein synthesis. So the first component required by plants is nitrate ions, and these are absorbed from the soil in solution. So nitrate ions are made up of nitrogen, as the clue is in the name, and nitrogen is an essential component of amino acids, hence the plant needs it in order to form them. And the second component needed is glucose, and this is produced during photosynthesis. So the plant takes in the sunlight and the leaves, and photosynthesis occurs producing glucose. So glucose is made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, which are also key components of amino acids. To summarise what we've just said, we've got our nitrate ions from the soil, plus our glucose produced during photosynthesis, which equals our amino acids. We have our amino acids, which are linked together during protein synthesis in order to form our specific protein. For our second point, we are going to be discussing which component of DNA actually codes for an amino acid sequence and how this makes a specific protein. So firstly, we have our DNA structure, our DNA double helix, and here we've got a gene selected. So the gene codes for an amino acid sequence, and this is what produces a specific protein. And now we're going to move on to some questions based on the information we've just discussed. So these are questions for all the AQA GCSE specifications. So the first question, so name the ion absorbed from the soil and the carbohydrate produced during photosynthesis by plants that are required to form amino acids for protein synthesis. And this is worth 2 marks. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight the key words of the question. So we want ion, so we know this is absorbed from the soil, so that's a clue there. And then we've got a carbohydrate produced during photosynthesis. And these are required to form amino acids for protein synthesis. Okay, so if we have a little think about the information we've just discussed, so we know that amino acids are made up of nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So this means that our ion must be linked to one of these 4 elements. So if you can remember back to what we just discussed, we know that it is in fact nitrate ions that provide the plant with nitrogen. And these are absorbed from the soil, as it says in the question. And then our carbohydrates, so we've got our carbon, our hydrogen and our oxygen left. So we know that our carbohydrate is in fact glucose, and this is produced during photosynthesis. So we've got our answer here. Question 2. Explain why nitrate ions are essential for plant growth and survival, and this question is worth 2 marks as well. So if we highlight the key parts of our question again, so explain why nitrate ions are essential for plant growth and survival. So we know that for plants to grow they need proteins, And proteins are obviously formed from amino acids. So based on the information we've discussed, we know that amino acids are made up of nitrogen and that nitrate ions provide this nitrogen. Therefore, the answer to the question must be that nitrate ions are required to form amino acids in order to grow proteins or for protein synthesis. So there we can see our answer there. Question 3. Use a word from the list below to complete the sentence about genetics. This is worth 1 mark. So we've got the words chromosomes, genes, genome, nucleotides, alleles. And the sentence is sections of DNA which code for particular amino acid sequences that make specific proteins are called blank. So if you're listening carefully, you will have noticed that I actually only mentioned one of these words during the explanatory content. So based on that, you should be able to choose the correct word. However, I am going to go through the words very quickly. It doesn't matter if you don't know what they mean at the moment, because I will be doing other videos on them. So firstly, let's just highlight the keywords. So section of DNA coding for particular amino acid sequences, make specific proteins. Okay, so if we start with alleles, so allele is a different version of the same gene, so we know that this is not a section of DNA which codes a particular amino acid sequence, so we can ignore that one. And nucleotide is what makes up DNA and RNA. It's composed of a pentose sugar and also a phosphate and a base, so we know that that is not a section of DNA that codes particular amino acid sequences. That's what forms the structure of it, rather. And then genome, so genome is all the genetic material of the living thing, so it's not just a small section of DNA. And then we go to chromosomes. So chromosome is what the DNA is packaged into, so all of the DNA, not just a section. So then by process of elimination, we know it is genes. And if you remember what we just discussed earlier, so a gene is a section of DNA which codes for a particular amino acid sequence, and this is what makes this specific protein. So therefore our answer is genes. Question 4 is define gene, and this is worth 2 marks. So I've sort of given it away on the last one, so if you think about that question, then you might already be able to get it. But we know that gene is a section of DNA that codes for a particular amino acid sequence, which then influences the protein produced, the specific protein produced. So there we are. So section of DNA that codes for a particular amino acid sequence that makes a specific protein. Okay, so now I'm going to be moving on to some further specification points. So for AQA GCSE Combined Sciences Synergy, you need to know the points we've discussed prior to this, and we also need to know that proteins are long-chain molecules made up of many amino acids linked together, and cells use amino acids to make new proteins. So here we've got our sequence of amino acids, so our amino acids linked together, and that is what a protein is. So it is a long chain of amino acids linked together. And cells, as you can see here with amino acids inside, they use these amino acids. These amino acids are used during protein synthesis in order to make new proteins. So during protein synthesis, these amino acids are linked together and they form new proteins. Okay, so now we're going to go over some questions based on that information. So question 1, name the components cells use to make new proteins. So we know that new proteins are made of amino acids, and so our answer is amino acids. Question 2, so define protein. This is worth 3 marks. So we know that a protein is made up of linked amino acids, and this is in a long chain. So therefore, protein is our long chain molecule is made up of many amino acids linked together. So the key things you want here is long chain molecules, many amino acids, and linked together. So now we're going to move on to AQA GCSE Biology Foundation and higher tier further points. So along with the specification points I mentioned at the beginning, we also need to know for these specifications that a sequence of 3 bases is the code for a particular amino acid, and also base order controls order of amino acid assembly to produce a particular protein. So here we've got our DNA molecule again with our gene, and a gene is made up of bases, and you don't need to know what these are, but I've just put them there as an example. So these genes have a triplet code, which means that they have a 3-base sequence, so 3 bases in a row codes for a particular amino acid. So here we have some examples of amino acids being coded for. So it is in fact this order of bases that controls the order of amino acid assembly. So we know that a sequence of 3 bases codes for different amino acids, as shown here. So then the amino acid sequence determines what protein is produced, as these are linked up in a specific order based on the base order, and so this produces a specific protein. Now we're going to move on to some questions based on that information. So the first question is, what does a sequence of 3 bases code for? So we know that in our triplet code, a sequence of 3 bases actually codes for a particular amino acid. So therefore our answer is a particular amino acid or a specific amino acid. Question 2, what does base order control? So we know that base order, so the order of bases within a gene, actually controls the order of amino acids, which therefore influences the particular protein produced. So therefore our answer is order amino acids are assembled to produce a particular protein. So question 3, so this question actually comes from the AQA Biology Foundation Tier Paper 1 from 2018. So the question is, protease is an enzyme. Protease breaks down protein. What is a protein broken down into? And then we have some examples. So we have amino acids, fatty acids, glucose, or glycerol. And from the information we know that proteins are in fact broken down into amino acids, as they are long chains of amino acids linked together. So therefore our answer is amino acids. So question 4, now this also comes from the AQA Biology Foundation Tier Paper 1 2018, and the question is, why is protein needed by the body? And this is for 1 mark. So we know that protein is made up of amino acids, and without protein we wouldn't be able to grow and we wouldn't be able to repair cells or tissues. So therefore our answer is either for growth, as I mentioned, or for repair or replacement of cells, tissues, or organs. So moving on to our final specification. So for the biology higher tier, you need to know, along with the information mentioned previously, that you make sure to recall a simple description of protein synthesis. So proteins are synthesized on ribosomes according to a template. Carrier molecules bring specific amino acids to add to the growing protein chain in the correct order. I have just included some information at the bottom saying that students are not expected to know or understand the structure of mRNA, tRNA, or the detailed structure of amino acids or proteins. So it's just the basic form of protein synthesis. So here we have our cell, and cells contain ribosomes in the cytoplasm, and ribosomes are where proteins are synthesized. So this is our genetic code we have here, and this is our template. So on one strand of the DNA is the code, and on the other is the template. So it's basically a reflection of the genetic code, which is then processed by mRNA, and this is what travels into the ribosome to code for the protein. But you don't need to know it in that much detail. So all you need to know is that the proteins are synthesized on these ribosomes according to a template. Then we have some molecules that are referred to as carrier molecules by this specific specification. So these carrier molecules have an amino acid on the top, as shown here. So it's a specific amino acid, and this is coded by the specific genetic code, the base code, as we discussed previously. So carrier molecules bring the specific amino acids to add to the growing protein chain. So here we have our mRNA code, and then the carrier molecule brings the specific amino acid to add to the growing protein chain. So as you can see here, once the code is at the end, the last carrier molecule brings in the amino acid, and as you can see, you've got your protein chain. So we're just going to do one question based on this information. So the question is, fill in the gaps in the passage describing protein synthesis with the appropriate key terms from the list below, and this is worth 5 marks. So we've got a range of key terms there, and then our passage is, proteins are synthesized on blank according to a blank. Blank molecules bring specific blank to the growing blank chain. So I'm not going to go over each of the key terms, but obviously when you're in exam, make sure to have a check of all the key terms so you know that you're getting the correct ones. So proteins are synthesized on blank. So we know that proteins are in fact synthesized on ribosomes. So that is our first key term. And this is according to a template. So we know that proteins are coded by a base code, a genetic code, and the template of this is what is in fact used for the protein synthesis. So then our next sentence, so something molecules bring specific something to the growing something chain. So we know that in fact carrier molecules bring specific amino acids to the growing protein chain. So these carrier molecules have specific amino acids due to the code that they are provided with, and then these amino acids are added to the growing protein chain, which eventually produces our protein. So as we can see, our answers are there.
I'm just really quickly going to go over some revision resources that I've created for the AQA specification that you can find on my website. You can download them if you want, or you can use them as inspiration to make revision resources yourself. So what I've got first is I've got the nitrate ions and the glucose over here producing amino acids. As we know, the nitrate ions from the soil and the glucose from photosynthesis. And then I've got a gene coding for amino acid sequence, which then influences the specific protein produced. Then over here, I'm talking about the triplet code. So we've got the 3 base sequences coding for particular amino acids, and then the base order influencing the amino acid order, which then produces a particular protein. Then over here, we've got the cell and the ribosomes within the cell, and the protein is made on the ribosome according to a template which matches the genetic code. We've then got our carrier molecule here with a specific amino acid, and then they come over to the code and they add to the growing protein chain. I then just got some keywords here that you can use to test yourself on all the key points. I then just got a flashcard on protein synthesis for the foundation course. You can also create these for the combined sciences courses. So here I've just got nitrate ions plus glucose creates amino acids with some key diagrams to remind myself of where they come from. I've then just got gene contains the code which influences the amino acid sequence, which then influences the particular protein produced. I've then written down that 3 bases equals amino acid, so the specific amino acid is coded for by a 3 base sequence, and then the base order influences the amino acid order, which therefore influences the protein. So if you would like me to do a video going over how I produce my revision resources and what I think the key tips and advice for really making the most out of your revision and which revision resources I recommend, then please let me know and I will be sure to do a video on it. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment down below on what you found helpful in the video and any video requests you have. And so yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.